tell you what, guys, I feel really betrayed, and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this seriously? And yet he still talks about the 2020 election fraud. He talks about.
Oh my God, I love that he goes, "You don't shut the fuck up about 2020, but you want us to shut the fuck up about Jeffrey Epstein." That's crazy. That's way more. That's way more
the
important.
Hunter Biden laptop. He talks about all this stuff from 5-6 years ago, and he tells us to move on from the Epstein trial or the Epstein case. People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And I tell you what, I've also lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are prominent figures in this country because they are saying, you know what, this doesn't matter. Like,
I'm sorry, dude. I told you this shit ain't going away. I told you this is a break-off point for many. This is a person who's calling the Glenn Beck show. Think about how in the tank you are, that you are literally a fan of Glenn Beck in the year 2025. He's not on Fox News anymore.
Here's one from Joe Biden.
With his blackboard and booming voice, Glenn Beck used his 5 p.m. show on Fox to build a case against big government.
Does the president really think we're this stupid?
But for Fox News, it might have been just too much.
This divorce was inevitable. Beck had proved too radioactive, even by the opinionated standards of Fox.
His actions became outrageous.
He's on a network that is barely held together by donors, big donors, at the Blaze Network. And this guy from South Dakota is calling in to his favorite content creator, Glenn Beck, on the verge of tears. He's on the verge of tears. He's like, dude, what the f***? My entire worldview is falling apart, dude.
Speaker Johnson, this is sort of on the heels of something else that a lot of people are asking questions about. And because we've been lied to by our federal government for so long, I feel like there's some type of like there's a pain point, right? And a pressure cooker that gets heated up on issues like the Epstein issue, right? And obviously that's something that's taken over a lot of the online dialogue. I have a question here about it that concerns either testifying or testimony for Ghislaine Maxwell, potentially before Congress, or if you would support members like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Anna Paulina Luna on the release of subpoenaing the Epstein documents from the DOJ, whether you would support either of those.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Marjorie or Anna about that specific subject, but I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there.
It was in 2007 that the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese.
Right.
Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one, and not on some like not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal.
That's just the way that it is. But it feels at this moment like
the GOP is getting really, really cocky. Not Jesse's red wave cocky from a few years ago that turned into a ripple, a whimper, whatever it was. But, just slinging arrows. We've got it all handled. We know exactly how to do this. We've got Trump. He's our magic weapon, and he's teaching everyone how to do this right. Well, one of the reasons that Trump won, a major reason, right, was the manosphere, that Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz loved him. Andrew Schultz this week, I voted for none of this. Trump is doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for. Joe Rogan, what's the deal with ICE going around picking up nice people who've lived here for decades who have committed no crimes? Joe Rogan, where are the Epstein files? I thought that they were important. Our approval rating is bad, 19%, terrible. GOP at 33%. Not fantastic, but obviously better. We can improve. I would never deny that. But important things that will matter for this midterms. The big, beautiful bill, 60% disapproval. 64% of Americans say that the GOP looks out for the interests of the rich, not the average American, the rich. Trump has a 62% disapproval on handling health care, probably because he's never even put forward any sort of solution. It will likely be the number one or the number two issue going in, especially because they're going to take health care away from billions of people. Focus on those kinds of things, make a better social media video, but the manosphere turning against us.
Now that Donald Trump, despite all the other things that he's done, now that he's crossed over into pedo land and he's, protecting this giant ring of pedos and all of that good stuff, now all the MAGA influencers are trying to backtrack and pretend like they didn't really have that much of a push for getting this man over the finish line. Mark Ruffalo really said it best when he took a shot at Joe Rogan and said that either you're not that smart or you're not that dumb. It's hard to tell which one. But at the end of the day, one of the things I point out about right-wing podcasts is that they're really not about politics at all. Even when they talk about politics, they're just going in on culture war issues like, oh, there's too many gay people out and about, we can't have that. And they'll start talking about how hard it is for men and the dynamics of relationships, or they talk about immigration. But they don't really talk about things like Medicaid, Medicare, expanding the healthcare system. I mean, they may touch on that, but for the most part, these podcasts are about sports and everyday topics that people are focused on at any given moment, whatever went viral on the internet. Those are the things that these podcasts really are centered on. And for these people to pretend like they had no idea what Trump was really about, they had no inclination that he was going to backtrack on everything he said is ridiculous, because that's all Donald Trump has ever done. All he's ever done is break promises and be a bull in a china shop and destroy everything. In his first term, he was a disaster. And in this term, he has even less people in a guardrail to tell him no. So a man without a real plan and no real interest in the job, of course, he's going to backtrack on everything. And despite the fact that he slashed regulatory and administrative agencies to help keep people alive, despite the fact that he just signed a bill that's taking healthcare away from tens of millions of people, despite all of that, none of that was too much. But him not releasing the Epstein files and him doing his best to cover it up, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So at the end of the day, it just says a lot about who these people are and what they really care about, which is themselves and their own pockets.